Hi students, I am Dr. Anurag Agarwal and this is OSN Academy of UPSC Optional English since 1998. Today is the day when I am going to review the paper 1 of the UPSC Mains Optional which was held few days before, and I am very happy and even proud to say that the students of UPSC, that too my students of OSN Academy, though they are few in number because you all know कि प्री क्वालिफाई करने के बाद मेंस क्वालिफाई करना एंड देन इंटरव्यू करना, तो मेंस तक जो बच्चे पहुंचते हैं दे आर वेरी very hardworking. They follow all my guidance timely, religiously. And one thing to be always noted, that if you have to dream big, you have to be an IAS officer with English literature as optional, then it is a thumb rule that you have to command your subject much, much, much before you qualify pre. For example, 2026 का जैसे हमारा बैच चल रहा है, so not only the 2026 batch students are joining on the daily basis, whoever are getting OSN Academy, even I have more than 5 students, I think 5 or 6, who have targeted the 2027 batch, but because they know the strategy, they have followed my guidance, they have joined the 2026 batch. And yes, it will give them more knowledge, more commitment, and more confidence in the writing skills. So this is the most important strategy, that not ever and ever think of giving less time to optional. Fine. So इसी के साथ हम लोग क्लास इस सेशन में आगे बढ़ते हैं. जो भी बच्चे किसी भी स्टेट के यूपीपीसीएस में, तो अब इंग्लिश रहा नहीं, देयर आर मेनी स्टेट्स ऑफ इंडिया जहां भी आज भी इंग्लिश लिटरेचर ऑप्शनल है, जैसे जम्मू एंड कश्मीर, WBSC, हरियाणा, हिमाचल, साउथ, उड़ीसा, एंड यस UPSC तो है ही है. So this is the single platform in India where students you can dream for qualifying and getting that level of marks. This time जो एग्जाम अभी हुआ है हाल में, उसमें I have calculated not less than 270, 280, or even I am calculating 290 for my student. And if God helps like that, maybe it would be between AIR 1 to AIR 100. So that is the level which you achieve when you command your literature under my guidance. So you can see the question paper here and the specific instructions for those students who might not have seen the paper. You can see here, there are 8 questions divided in 2 sections. Candidate has to attempt 5 questions. Very important things to understand. And after that, I will be moving towards, ये देखिए, it is 2 sections. Then the candidate has to attempt 5 questions in all. कितने बच्चों? 5 questions आपको करने होते हैं. अब यहाँ पे एक पॉइंट और इंपॉर्टेंट है, देखिए, क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 एंड क्वेश्चन नंबर 5. ये देखिए, क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 आर कंपल्सरी, एंड जो रिमेनिंग 3 है ये वाला आर टू बी अटेम्प्टेड चूजिंग एटलीस्ट 1 फ्रॉम ईच सेक्शन. मतलब 3 में से आपको एक और एक करना है. And 1 and 5 are compulsory, and out of the remaining 3 you have to attempt choosing at least 1 question from each section. मतलब 1 तो आपको मिनिमम करना ही, ऐसा नहीं कि पूरा सेक्शन आप छोड़ दें. The number of marks carried by a question part is indicated and answers must be written in English. See my dear students, चूंकि आपको आंसर्स को इंग्लिश में लिखना है, हमेशा हिंदी में तो लिखना नहीं है. And in the last so many years, I have found that the UPSC aspirants are not in a habit of writing answers in a very good speed. Rather, they are overthinking too much. Thinking का process इतना ज़्यादा है because उनकी जो quality है, confidence है, या जो production है उनके mind में, that is not up to the mark. So that is why they take more time and the content is not that rich. Before I start explaining the detail of the question answers, I would advise you, guide you that I would इसको लाइए, I would advise you that if you are a student whose background is English, BA English, MA English, then also there is a lot of changes in the pattern. For example, if the question is discuss Wordsworth as a poet of nature, so the answer you are writing in the BA level or the answer you are writing in the MA level and the answer which you are writing in the UPSC level, the approach in the UPSC is totally different. And the approach, the writing should not be bookish. It should not be prosaic. The diction should not be bombastic. It should not be rhetoric. It should be like the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings as said by Wordsworth. It means that the examiner will judge that how much you know about Wordsworth or blah, blah, blah. And what you have written, it is straight coming from your mind, from your brain, from your heart. Otherwise, if you are rectifying the things from the high level books, it will not give you that marks. So because I've been teaching students from the top universities of India, like LSR, Miranda, St. Stephen's, Christ College, Delhi University, JNU, and top colleges of the entire country for the UPSC past 20-25 years. So I know so many stories where the students have been gold medalists, but they could not suffice to get that level of marks when it comes to UPSC. That is why technically I am always telling that writing skills, to write the answers, to get it checked by me, get the remarks, get the marks, get the format that what sir has written, what is the points which are missing. These are all very important facts and these are all very important points to be noted down in your memory. The questions which come in the UPSC level are not very tedious, are not very hard. They are very supportive. Means if you have completed my classes, if you have completed my question and answers in my study material or are in touch with me regularly with my test series, nobody can mar you from qualifying the UPSC mains. But yes, if you are making a lot of gaps, if you are not studying and if you feel that I would study in 1 month or 2 months, it will actually not happen. I don't know if you may be one of the rare species in India, then it might happen. But naturally, it don't happen. Fine. And see, in this question, paper number 1, that is paper 1, my students, they told me that, sir, whatever you had taught, 90% of the paper 1 was taught in my classes and my content in my test series. Paper 2, yes, paper 2 was a little tough. Paper 2, I admit that whatever I taught was not there totally, but still 60% to 70% was there in the paper 2 also. But yes, in totality, the student can qualify because 90% in paper 1, 60-70% whatever was taught was in the question paper. Now you can see students, मैं इसको आपको दिखा रहा हूं क्वेश्चंस का. क्वेश्चंस को देखिएगा आप और ये देखिएगा कि क्वेश्चन देखने में आपको इजी लगेगा. You will find the question looking easy, but you don't need to write it in the BA or the MA level. See, now see, this is question number 1 and this is C, 150 words and 10 marks. 10 marks means, my dear students, 10 marks means कि कम से कम अगर आप हमारे एज स्टूडेंट हैं, मैं आपको पढ़ा रहा हूं, तो मिनिमम यहाँ पे इन 5 में से 7 into 5 is equal to 35. ये मिलना ही मिलना चाहिए. Not less than that. It might be 33, 34 or sometimes even 36, 37. But averaging would be 35. Now, major literary developments of the Renaissance में आप क्या लिखोगे? What you will write? I would try to discuss with you in short points. For example, if I am going to discuss with you this question number 1, students, आप भी कॉपी में अपने points note कर लो. You also note down your points because these discussions can take hours and hours together. but because it is just a review, I would like to tell you that this question, major literary developments of the Renaissance, इसमें पहला पॉइंट आ जाएगा द पेट्रार्कन सोनेट फॉर लवर Laura by Petrarch, and the drama became more humanistic with actual human concerns like to be or not to be. Then what happened in this time? Essays became famous, and work alone oration on the dignity of man by Pico della Mirandalo. Then you have to write about the rise of drama, and you have to mention the rise of drama with theaters like Globe, with theaters like Rose. So these are the points which has to be written in the question number 1, and then you can explain in 150 words. Now, we come to question number 2, representation of the supernatural in Elizabethan and Jacobean drama. Question को जरूर से 2-3 बार पढ़ें. Always read the question 2-3 times. What happens sometimes, if you read question in one time and start writing, it might happen कि आप जब दोबारा question पढ़ें, then you will feel, oh my God, this point was to be taken into consideration and I left it. So always read the question 2 times. Representation of the supernatural. किस एज में सुपरनैचुरल को रिप्रेजेंट करना है? एलिजाबेथन एंड जैकोबियन ड्रामा में. Now, your answer should be minute, precise, not beating about the bush, not to waste even one line of your sentence, because the space is less, the marks are 10, so you have to show the examiner that you know the best. Now, some points which I would like to tell you in this, that in Elizabethan era, supernatural in Elizabethan era, supernatural, though ghosts, you can write like in Hamlet, that there was a detailed story about the ghost which happened in the great play Hamlet by Shakespeare. This happened in Elizabethan era. Then you will write heat and tempest. Heat and tempest used to describe the tempest of human mind. In Jacobean era, used to show deceit, trickery, and bribery, which I have even taught you, which you also might have read, like the work Volpone, like the work The Alchemist, and these two by Ben Jonson. Then you will also write masks, M-A-S-Q-U-E-S. Mask was heavily used in the Jacobean era and used to show the human vices and the human follies. In Elizabethan era, the supernatural made the tragedy great. Elizabethan era में क्या हुआ कि जब supernatural elements को डाला गया, उससे tragedy और भव्य हो गई. While in Jacobean era, this supernatural led to exposing of the human follies and vices. So, discussing these things in brief, to the point, this will give you better marks, rather best marks. Now, question number 3, देखिए, you have to show the key characteristics that define metaphysical poetry. आपको key characteristics दिखाना है जो define करता है metaphysical poetry को. Now, first of all, ये जो term है metaphysical, basically आपको इसको समझाने की जरूरत है. और metaphysical conceits are what? They are extended metaphors. Then you can also write about, एक बार क्वेश्चन भी आया था IAS में, Discordia concords. So you will also write this terminology and try to explain it. Extremely intellectual poetry combining humans and divine love together. कैसी है मेटाफिजिकल पोइट्री? की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक क्या है? इट इज नोन एज एन एक्सट्रीमली इंटेलेक्चुअल पोइट्री, एंड दिस टाइप ऑफ पोइट्री uses territorial metaphors to describe the beauty of the lover. This also uses vivid natural imagery and alliteration. Moreover, Dryden was the first to use the term in connection with Donne by saying that he affects the metaphysics. Dr. Johnson later described Donne and his followers as the metaphysical poets. So, basically, what is metaphysical poetry? What are the key characteristics? ये brief में ये जो term है, the metaphysical poetry, this implies the characteristics of complexity, intellectual tone, abundance of wit, subtle wit rather, fusion of intellect, emotion, colloquial argumentative tone, conceits, or conceits भी कैसी, which are sometimes witty, sometimes fantastic. Then you will also write a word, scholarly allusions, dramatic tones, philosophic or reflective elements. And yes, one point I just remembered, concentration is an important quality of metaphysical poetry. Concentration, preciseness, जिसको हम बेकन के वर्ड्स में कहते हैं एपिग्रामेटिक स्टाइल. Fine. And in all the metaphysical poems, largely the reader is held to one idea or line of argument. उनकी जो poems होती हैं वो बहुत brief होती हैं, closely woven होती हैं. Example आप दे सकते हैं, डन का दे सकते हैं, the poem Ecstasy, where the principal argument is that through the different acts of love, the function of man as man is being worthily performed, and the poet develops the theme without any digression. Then you can also use the term an expanded epigram would be a fitting description of the metaphysical poem. Fondness of conceits, a metaphysical key characteristic of metaphysical poetry. Comparisons discovering likeness in things unlike. But in a conceit, we are made to concede the likeness even while being strongly conscious of the unlikeness. Fine. So this is all in brief, which I wanted to tell you in this question number 3. Now, 4. Function of satire in mock epic. Function of satire in mock epic. What is that? To basically to deride the aristocratic class, to basically present heavy and serious grave matters. Satire reduces the seriousness of the matter without compromising with the thematic concerns. Satire ensures that the mock epic helps in mirroring the human vices and follies. So it can be written much more with example to the rape of the lock and mock epic. What is a mock epic? How it came, how it proved, and how we enjoy it, and so much and so, keeping in mind these 150 words. Now, the last question क्या है देखिए इसमें A में, factors contributed to the emergence of novel as a literary form in the 18th century. So, in this, the 18th century, we all know in Europe, was the age of enlightenment, and literature actually explored themes of social upheaval, reversals of personal status, political satires, geographical explorations, comparison between the supposed natural state of man and the supposed civilized state of man. Now, the 18th century basically saw the development of the modern novel as a literary genre. Subgenres of the novel during the 18th century were the epistolary novel, जिसको कहते हैं novel written in letters, the sentimental novel, the history novel, the gothic novel, and the libertine novel. And yes, you have also to write in short that the novel arose very late in as a literary form. The epic, the tragedy, the comedy, the essay, the short story all preceded it by centuries. The novel appeared when people were beginning to be careful about distinguishing fact and fiction. The novel represented fiction, whereas the epic was presented in the historical truth in spite of the legends it transmitted. So, in the 18th century, the years after the 40s, it witnessed a new literary genre which was soon to establish itself for all times to come as the dominant literary form. Of course, we are referring here to the English novel which was born with none other than वो क्या नाम है Richardson's Pamela. And the novel is a worldwide cultural instrument which helped the way we speak, the way we talk, the way we feel, and whatever we do. In the 18th century, a new literary genre established into the English novel. The novel may be the last form of literature to establish, but since in 18th century its success had been alarming. The periodical essay was, which was another gift of this century to the English literature, was born and died in the century, but the novel was already enjoying a very enduring career. And if you see the rise of the novel, and if you go back to 1660s, जब kingdom का restoration हुआ था with the coming of Charles II, if you remember the history part, British society was under the firm authority of the monarchy and the aristocracy. People had experienced the Commonwealth duration also. क्या नाम था? Richard Cromwell, Oliver Cromwell. उससे क्या हुआ था? That had impacted a kind of transformation in their approach towards different domains of their life, either mentally or practically. They were in a very perplexed and a complex situation. Contradictory political condition resulted in the form of social hierarchy and an aggression for the status quo. So, if you see the rise of the novel in the 18th century, there was the need for realism. And the great difference between the 18th century novels and the fantastic world of the prose romances of the Middle Ages and Shakespeare's romances in the Renaissance is the need of realism of the novel as a game. Fine. As a genre. Now, the modern idea of realism is reflected in the fact that unlike previous fiction, novels deal with the recognizable contemporary objects, language, and situations, and not with the extraordinary, fantastic, or magical events told in the highly refined language. The language of the novel also reflects the realistic trend. It is plain, it is factual, it is quite similar to that of the newspapers, the magazines, the novel. Main features क्या होते हैं वो भी आपको आना चाहिए. A great stress on the contemporary reality, chronological sequence of events, abundance of realistic details, the novelty of the stories. So the 18th century basically saw not only the beginning of the novel as a literary genre, but also uh, uh, the first great example of subgenres which have been very popular since. Now, अब realistic novel होता क्या है? Detailed realism shows in the novel especially in two elements. अब वो two elements क्या होते हैं? Time and place. Both underwent a radical change during the 18th century. Time ceased to be an eternal and immutable power whose presence was mainly felt through death and physical decay. With the novel, a modern awareness of time enters literature. और अगर हम बात करें रॉबिन्सन क्रूसो की, one of the most popular books written, Daniel Defoe carefully records his hero's experiences from year to year and from day to day. And it is precisely because of this form of realism that we are made to accept the improbability of the story. So, Defoe is the first of great writers to be seriously concerned with space as a geographical entity. उसकी जो sea voyages थी, his sea voyages are not situated in the realm of fantasy, as in Shakespeare we find in the play The Tempest. They are measured by latitude and longitude. They are uh, pinpointed by the names of real seas, ships and harbors. अगर हम यूटोपियन फिक्शन की बात करें, यूटोपियन, तो even utopian fiction, a genre that went back to the classical literature and in the Renaissance, आपको याद होगा Thomas More, from which the word is derived utopia, was deeply influenced by the realistic trend inaugurated by the novel. And a masterpiece like Gulliver Travels by Jonathan Swift continues the utopian tradition of showing the imaginary world or nations which are presented as a counterpart to actual imperfect societies. जो स्विफ्ट की बुक है, स्विफ्ट्स बुक however is given the form of a novel. Gulliver's fantastic travels include a real geography, latitude, longitude, names of seas, oceans, countries, and Gulliver also recounts his adventures with the same precision and objective details as Robinson Crusoe. So, फिफ्थ क्वेश्चन में मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल आपको बता दिया, जस्ट टू मेक यू अंडरस्टैंड कि जितना कॉन्सेप्ट आपका हिस्ट्री का क्लियर रहेगा, जितना एजेस आपकी क्लियर रहेंगी, उतना वर्सिटाइल और उतना इंटेलेक्चुअल आपका आंसर रहेगा, एंड दैट ओनली कैन गिव यू बेटर मार्क्स, गुड मार्क्स टू क्वालिफाई दिस एग्जाम. अब इसके बाद देखिए, ये आपका क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 है. ये देखिए क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 है, आंसर ऑल द क्वेश्चंस. आंसर ऑल द क्वेश्चंस. ये देखिए 3, आंसर ऑल द क्वेश्चंस. देन दिस इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट जो मैंने आपको शुरू में बताया था कि 1 and 5 आर कंपल्सरी. इस पोएम को ध्यान से पढ़ना है. इस पोएम को मतलब हाउ टू राइट आंसर्स इन द अनसीन पैसेज. आई स्पेशली टेक क्लासेस फॉर दिस. जिन बच्चों को नहीं पता है, दे बिकम वर्सिटाइल व्हेन आई गिव देम द स्पेशल क्लासेस फॉर दिस. ये देखिए, ये बहुत ही स्कोरिंग होता है, लेकिन इसको स्कैन करना आना चाहिए. नाउ दिस इज क्वेश्चन नंबर 6, क्वेश्चन नंबर 7 और क्वेश्चन नंबर 8. सो एक एक सेक्शन को हम धीरे धीरे रिव्यू करेंगे आप लोगों के लिए. जो भी यूपीएससी के बच्चे हैं, अगर वो 2026 टारगेट कर रहे हैं और या 2027 टारगेट कर रहे हैं, तो मैं आपको यहाँ पे बता दूँ एक बात कि ऑप्शनल की तैयारी सबसे पहले होती है. दिस इज द वॉल्यूम 1. ये देखिए, दिस इज वॉल्यूम 1 येलो कलर, दिस इज वॉल्यूम 2 ब्लू कलर. देन यू हैव 2 वॉल्यूम्स. ये देखिए, this you have 2 volumes of in paper 1 a section A, 2 volumes, and then you have 2 volumes in section paper 2, and this all 7 volumes consist of the entire course question and answers which I have solved for you. पूरे syllabus का question है, उसका answer है proper तरीके से which I have solved, and it makes this volume actually wonderful and very precious. So thank you students for attending my classes. चैनल को सब्सक्राइब और लाइक कर दीजिए, and follow my OSN Academy. In case of any guidance, in case of any career orientation for your UPSC and other exams, you may get in touch. The number is given on the screen, and you can even download the application OSN